You may begin in 30 seconds.
Welcome everyone to Acing Test Corrections. My name is Tiffany Grayer and I am the coordinator of the School Performance and Monitoring Unit here in the Office of Public School Accountability for the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education, or DESE. We are coming for you today to help you, guide you in your test corrections for the 2022 testing season. We have included an agenda that was just kind of our landing page for our thoughts on what we would cover today. So it is attached here. We've dropped a link in the chat for the PowerPoint, and I'm going to start the session today just going over some of the policy around participation requirements and test corrections. And then I'm going to turn the session over to Mr. Kevin Ward, who is our systems analyst here in School Performance. And he is going to walk you through the Assessment Correction Engine portal, show you how to make sure that your login credentials are correct, put in your reason not tested codes, upload your documentation, and make sure that your superintendent knows how to go in and download the certification forms, get that uploaded, and certify your data. Now, schools and districts must certify their pre-appeals certificate or assessment data. However, it is, the process of making corrections is optional, although it's highly recommended, but that certification of the data is required for all schools and districts in Arkansas. So we'll go over that process with you today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the session. The first thing we're going to talk about today is why we try to encourage you to make corrections in the first place, and that is because of the state and federal laws around participation requirements. Most of you guys know that there is a requirement to test at least 95% of your students. On the state side, there is a standard 1C.11 that says that 95%, at least 95% of all of your students must participate in the annual statewide summative assessment. So this state requirement is for the all students group. That's very important to make note of. So we are looking at the all students group when we're talking about state accountability. In 2021, we had 111 schools and 56 districts that did not meet the state requirement for the summative assessment. The board was willing to waive this citation because of the impact of the pandemic. However, this will not be the case for 2022. We've been looking at pre-appeals data. That number has been cut in half for the all students group, but we will be working very hard to make sure that we reduce that number by much more. Just looking at the schools right now that their all students group is less than 95%. Many of those schools are like in the 90%. So we feel very confident that we can help you guys get where you need to be through assessment corrections. So we will be watching those schools and districts. We have members of our team assigned to a co-op region. So we will be watching you very closely. If you're one of those identified schools and you haven't attempted corrections by week 1, you will be contacted by a member of my unit to see how we can help support you. for the federal side. However, like I said, this could lead to a standard citation, or you might be put on corrective action plan if your district or school does not meet 95% for all students. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about federal accountability. The ESSA plan, the Arkansas approved ESSA plan, states that for all students and for all subgroups of students, the weighted achievement denominator will be adjusted if for any of those subgroups, a school fails to meet its participation requirement of at least 95% testing. In 2021, the accountability at a glance report, or the school rating report, instead of having those school ratings or the letter grades on them, we highlighted the importance of testing at 95% by showing you an adjusted versus unadjusted score, to show what an impact this could make on your ESSA school index. Now, those school ratings or letter grades will be coming back in 2022, but the weighted achievement adjustment has always been in place through the ESSA plan. Another caveat of federal accountability is if there's some school who fails to meet the participation requirement for all students or for any subgroup of students for 2 or more consecutive years, then they will be placed on what we call a participation plan of support. Last year, there were 11 districts identified who did not meet participation requirements for 2 or more consecutive years, and they were placed on a participation plan of support. Sorry, I'm going to go back. This participation plan of support looks something like this. The district will ensure DESE that they will agree to test early in the window. So within the first few weeks of the window, they'll agree to complete their makeup testing immediately following their initial test administration. They'll be required to attend one of these acing test corrections webinars, and they will agree to submit reason not tested corrections within the first week of the corrections window opening. For DESE support, what we will do on our end is we will provide trainings so that those district test coordinators, the superintendent, whoever is doing the testing, administering testing and corrections, will feel supported. This year, we worked in collaboration with the assessment unit to provide a Ready, Set, Go training prior to the testing window opening. We provided training, or providing training now via this acing testing corrections webinar. We will also be providing technical support via Zoom to any DCT during the ACE window to give more information, feedback about the corrections that you have made. For instance, if maybe you've uploaded the wrong documentation, or if we just need additional information, that could be our time to give some feedback to you. So one thing that might be important to note is who are the students that might be exempt from testing, or who can be excluded from your enrollment. These codes here give you some guidance to that. And these are the same codes that can be found in our assessment correction engine corrections and required documentation guide, which is linked here on this slide. So reason 2, there's a few of these reason codes that are used more often than others. 2, 3, and 6 are probably our most commonly used reason codes. Code 6 is probably the most common, but we'll go over 2, 3, and 6 today in detail a little further down in the slide, but slideshow. Reason code 2 is a medical exemption, and code 3 is a residential treatment center exemption for both of these. It's worth noting that the student would have to be absent throughout the duration of the testing window. That's all 5 weeks, April 18th through May 16th. We would need official documentation on official letterhead from either the doctor, hospital, residential treatment center, or whatever would be appropriate for the corresponding code. It would also need to include like the day the student was entered into the facility and what day they were expected to return to school. So we'll kind of go over that in more detail in a little bit. With the withdrew code, these students would need to withdraw prior to the April 18th data pool. And these are normally students that withdraw to go to homeschool, private school, or move out of state. We generally catch the students that transfer to another Arkansas school through cycle data pools. Sometimes maybe we didn't, because there is a lag between eSchool and Triand. We really need you to make sure your enrollment is correct the Friday before the data pool occurs. So it's like a 3-day lag. And you guys can read through these other testing codes. And like I said, there's a lot more detail if you click on the image here of the corrections guide. Code 1s are not exempt from enrollment or the expectation to test because these are just students who were absent during the test administration, or they were expelled. Maybe they just outright refused to test. But these are generally that extra 5% wiggle room that the feds allow from the participation requirement. So these do count against the school in their expectation to test. And when we do calculate percent tested, we do include all full academic year students and highly mobile students. So even though the highly mobile students do not go into the weighted achievement calculation, they do go into the percent tested calculation. This chart shows some of the reasons we denied corrections in 2021. And as you can see, an overwhelming majority of denials were because of the code 6 reason not tested. It was usually because people or schools or districts tried to use a code 6, but they actually withdrew after the April 18th date or whatever the respective date was for the 2021 testing season, but they withdrew actually after that first data pool, but schools and districts were still attempting to use a code 6. That's why we were trying to be more proactive with our communication this year and get that information to you early so that you could get your enrollment correct. Hopefully we don't see as many of these this year as we did last year. We will definitely be pulling our data again to see how we can support you better. The inadequate documentation, this is why we will be trying to encourage you to do your corrections early so that that gives our team a chance to go over your documentation. If there's something incorrect, but maybe the student can be exempt, that gives us an opportunity to reach back out to you to say, hey, you uploaded a Triand screenshot, but we really needed an eSchool screenshot. Could we work with you to get that proper documentation uploaded? Like I said, again, we're just trying to be really proactive and do a better job to support our schools and districts around the state. Enrolled during the window, these would be the transfer students that we capture in that second data pool. So again, just tightening up enrollment and things of that nature. This gives you more information about the code 6 and how you really have to make sure you get your enrollment correct prior to the April 18th data pool. And this is the documentation that we need You can submit a request from records from a receiving school if you're able to get that. Or you can just upload an eSchool entry withdraw screenshot, and we need to see one of these withdrawal codes in that screenshot, whether it's homeschool, private school, moved out of state, but we're going to need those withdrawal dates showing that they withdrew prior to the April 18th data pool. And like it says, without the proper documentation, we cannot approve code 6. So to address the withdrawal situation a little bit further, we're going to look at this accountability chart. This deals also with the transfer situation. So if a school, if a student doesn't show up in the first data pool, but they do show up in the second data pool. So this would be a situation where maybe the student was being homeschooled, they were in a private school, or they were in an out-of-state school, but then they transferred into an Arkansas school. That Arkansas public school will be responsible for testing that student, okay? So even if they show up to you a couple of days before the testing window closes, try your best to test that student, because they are going to count for or against your participation rate, okay? This would be the opposite situation. So say that student had been with you most of the year, highly mobile or full academic, right? Because participation includes both. So they showed up in your data pool on April 18th, but then they transferred. They either went out of state, they went homeschool or private school, and they were out of your enrollment May 16th. Well, they're going to be included in your participation rate if they're not showing up in any other Arkansas school. Okay, so those are the first two situations. Okay. Now let's talk about some other situations. Okay. 3 and 4 are sort of similar, but can be a little confusing. Okay. 3 and 4 are both situations where on the first data pool, April 18th, they were in one Arkansas school, but then when we pulled enrollment on May 16th, they showed up in a different Arkansas school. Okay, so this was a transfer student. Okay, if the student tests, then we're going to count them for the sending school, because we're going to assume, well, they've received most of their instruction here. So we're going to let it count for the school where they received most of their instruction. Okay. But if they do not test, then we're going to count against the receiving school, because that's just going to be how it is, because we don't know how much time they spent here. They could have transferred on April 18th, and for most of the testing window, they could have been at school B. Okay, so these are just the rules. It is what it is, but we have to come up with some way to assign the accountability responsibility, and these are the rules. We wanted to make it very transparent. Okay, and this information was pushed out during Ready, Set, Go, so you guys understood. This is the optimal situation. This is what we would like to see happen for all students, right? We want the student to stay with us the whole year. This is a student that did not transfer. They were in both data pools at the same school, okay? So of course they would stay in the school's participation data that they were in originally. So these are our students that have been with us the whole time, okay? And this one, of course, is the easiest to make sense of. All right. Moving along, these are our codes 2 and 3 that we talked about. We talked about the medical waivers, code 2, residential treatment is code 3, and how the student must be absent throughout the duration of the testing window. The documentation has to be on official letterhead. It has to have, for medical, it has to address the student's limitations. It has to have the initial intake date and the date the student is released. Similar requirements for residential treatment center. Now, the thing that you may notice about these is this one says reason not tested without the proper documentation will not be approved. This one says documentation is recommended but not required. The difference is we noticed that in the ACT will not test portal, for some reason, you were not required to submit documentation here, but you were here. So we adapted this a little bit. We're hoping to change that with the new assessment. We were going to just leave it alone because we only had one more year with ACT Aspire. But I will mention that my office also monitors. So if you get selected for monitoring, we will expect you to have all of that documentation on file. So for records retention purposes, I would just go ahead and upload the proper documentation. That way, if you do get monitored, all we have to do is go into the assessment correction engine and pull your documentation. So just go ahead, do the right thing, and upload your documentation. Otherwise, if you get monitored, we'll expect you to provide the documentation. If you've already provided the documentation in the ACE portal, then you can just say mine's in ACE. And so we'll have it for you. That's just the easier way to do things. Okay, and that's all I have for you now. I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. Kevin Ward is our systems analyst, and he's going to do an interactive presentation with you. And he's going to ask you to go to joinpd.com, but he'll give you more information on that. And I'm going to turn it on over. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you all for joining us again today.
Thank you, Ms. Greer. So as Ms. Greer has stated, if everyone can please join on the Pear Deck, joinpd.com. That is joinpd.com. So I just while y'all logging into the Pear Deck, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. As Ms. Greer stated earlier in the session, so I am the systems analyst for the school performance unit. And I've been doing reason not tested corrections for quite a few years. And throughout these years, I've come across phone calls and emails regarding common mistakes, common problems, not only when it comes to just reason not tested corrections, but also the assessment correction engine. So we're going to try to resolve some of those problems or mistakes that that you may come across. That way that if you come across those situations, you already know how to resolve them. So just want to give y'all just a few more minutes to hop on. And the code is OWOYDI. So far we got 23 students who are connected, 26. And still people still hopping on. And also in this interactive part, we're going to take a tour of the assessment correction engine. We're going to see the proper ways to upload documentation and how your district corrections need to be fully submitted for the school performance team to process and review. All right. So I guess when we get to 40, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Since we at 38.
And I dropped the code and the link in the chat, so I think you're good to go, Kevin.
Okay, cool. All right, then. So let's go ahead and get started. So in order to access the assessment correction engine, you can either access it through the link that is in the commissioner's memo that we posted last week, or you can access it through the ADE data center that is on the DESE website. So this is the DESE website, the DESE homepage. So to get to the data center, you want to scroll down till you see the link that says ADE data center. Scroll down again till you get to a bunch of tabs, and you will see Systems of Accountability ESSA. And that's where you will click to access the assessment correction engine, or ACE as we call it. So in order to access ACE, you must have a valid Tri-N account and be granted permission. So I highly recommend between now and Monday, the start of the correction window, to get in contact with your district's Tri-N manager and make sure that your Tri-N account is accurate and valid. Now, when I was mentioning about these common mistakes, common problems, logging into ACE is one of those common problems. So I received calls and emails saying that I'm having trouble logging in. ACE keeps denying me. Or even like last year, there was a DTC who said that I'm in the system, but I'm only can see the reason I tested corrections for only one school in my whole district. Well, 9 out of 10 times is probably the way how your Tri-N profile account is set up. So ACE is only requiring if you have district level access only. All right. So it got to be just district level access. So let's take a look, like just kind of use my profile account as an example. So if you are a DTC who just only have school level access only, let's just say you just have your school name here. Let's say I'm a DTC at a district called Union School District. If in the school text box, if it's just saying Union High School, then ACE is going to deny me. All right, now you may be a DTC that says like, okay, I got Union School District in the district text box and Union High School in the school text box. That's where you may encounter like that DTC last year. And I go into ACE and I'm like, okay, I see Union High School, but I don't see Union Elementary and Union Middle School. All right, so please just make sure if you have anything in the school text box, just delete it and make sure your district name is only showing in your Tri-N profile account. This also applies for superintendents as well, especially if your district has a new superintendent. So please make sure that the superintendent's Tri-N account is valid and accurate. And I'm going to touch on that in a few minutes as to why the superintendent's Tri-N account is so important. So now we're going to take a little tour of the assessment correction engine system. And so the reason for this video is to kind of like because I had to kind of blur out just for a student personal identifiable information, had to kind of blur stuff out. So that way the student's information is not shown. So here is the tour. Hold on. Forgot one thing. There we go. Once logged in, you are now on the ACE homepage. You can view the name of your district along with all the schools within your district. Now, just a little FYI, I have no connections with Ashdown School District. I'm just using Ashdown as an example in this video. On the homepage, you can view the number of students who took the most recent state summative exam. This also works similarly if you're looking at it on a school level. Now, below the pie chart, this is where you will start doing your reason not tested corrections. To start making corrections, you want to click on the review button. Throughout this reason not tested correction process, just to give you a fair warning, it can be repetitive, meaning that you may have to submit corrections 3 times for one student. So let's say I was a student at Ashdown School District and I was given a reason not tested code of 6 because I withdrew from Ashdown and moved out of state. My name will be in the assessment correction engine 3 times for ELA, math, and science. You will have to upload documentation for those 3 subject matters. To make these corrections, click on the action button, update upload document. Click on the orange button to upload documentation that you have already saved onto your computer hard drive. We prefer documentation to be in a PDF format, but also formats in a Word doc, JPEG, or PNG file will also be acceptable. Once the file is uploaded, click on the Save Changes button. Now, you may have noticed that there are different colors for each reason not tested indicator. So what do the colors mean? Well, red means that there's no reason not tested code specified for that student and that it's currently counting against your percent tested calculation. But what if you have valid documentation that could exclude a student from the percent tested calculation? So let's say, for example, you may have a student who took the DLM test and not the ACT Aspire test. Well, go to Action, Update, Upload Document, and click number 7 for Student Took Alternate Assessment. Upload the student's DLM test scores and click Save Changes. The red indicator will turn into green. Green indicates that there's a code specified for that student and it has valid documentation, meaning that that correction for that student is complete for that subject. Yellow means that a code is specified, but it will not exclude the student from the percent tested calculation. This is mostly for students who are coded as a 1 because they were absent all days of the test, they refused to test, etc. If the indicator is blue, then it means that there was a reason not tested code specified for the student and that you will have to go into that student's correction and upload documentation to try to exclude the student from the percent tested calculation. So once again, go to action, update, upload, and upload documentation. And if this gets approved by ADE, then the student will be removed from the percent tested calculation. The only way you will see an indicator be gray is if you're working on a student where the indicator is red and you choose the reason not tested code 1 and upload documentation, then that still specifies that the student will still not be excluded from the percent tested calculations, even though you try to make corrections by giving that student a code 1. After you have made all the corrections that needed to be made, it's time for your corrections to be submitted to the school performance unit for us to process and review. But in order for your corrections to be fully submitted, there are two ways. The superintendent can log into the assessment correction engine and submit corrections on behalf of the district, or the superintendent can designate you as the district test coordinator, and you will have to submit corrections on behalf of the district. Either way, it must be done with the superintendent's Tri-An account. I'm going to repeat that again. It must be done with the superintendent's Tri-An account. So when logging into the assessment correction engine with the superintendent's Tri-An account, you will scroll to the bottom of the ACE homepage and click on Submit Corrections. Fill out the required fields and also download the superintendent certification form. Fill it out and upload it and click on Submit. Now, if you have any further questions regarding how to navigate the assessment correction engine, then there is a user guide that is located under the Support tab. Also, a user guide is located in the Commissioner's memo, along with the ACE tutorial video. How to do reason not tested corrections within the assessment correction engine interface. All right, so let's go take back the last few minutes in that video, especially the part where about the superintendents having to submit corrections on behalf of the district. So this is another common mistake and problem that I have seen from my years doing these corrections. And so once the correction window is closed for all the districts, so I go into the ACE system and we have on our end where there's a list of districts who have submitted, and then there's a list of districts who did not submit. So I go looking at the list of districts who did not submit, and I'm just checking just to make sure. And then I may come across districts like, whoa. And remember when I was talking about those green indicators? So I could go look at your district and then I see a green indicator and I'm like, okay, that district did something in the system. Then I go look at the other districts on the list. This district did something. This district did something. So now creating this spreadsheet and I'm highlighting, the districts who did something in the correction system. Now, after doing all that, now we have to call the district superintendents. And we get it. We get it that, that superintendents got a lot on their plates. And sometimes it can be hard to try to contact the superintendent, because we want to ask them if we can submit your corrections on, we want to submit their corrections on behalf of the district. And we try to get their permission. And it could be like the end of the day, we may hear something. It could be 3 days until we hear something from the superintendent. And so it is it's hard to try to get in touch. And then also, like when we contact him, we try and get in touch with the superintendent. We finally get in touch with the superintendent, telling them like, okay, like, hey, like, you know, we explain to them what's going on. And sometimes it can be awkward on our end when the superintendent kind of like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And so, they try, sometimes superintendents try to deflect like, hey, no, but like, hey, it got to be the superintendent. So keep that open line of communication with your district superintendent and let them know how important it is, whether they're going to submit it or you submitting on behalf of them. So let's see next. And this is what the superintendent certification form looks like. So all you gotta do is just fill it out and just upload it back into the assessment correction engine. And if you're a district who they just know that's a large district, you can make an additional copy and just still fill out the same information with the school name and the LEA number. All right, so now we're gonna come across.
So Kevin, I will say, like, what you're doing here when you're filling out this form as a superintendent is you're certifying, saying, I accept this to be true, that this is my data for the 2022 school year.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we get to the type of scenarios, there's one more common mistake. That's a technical part. If when logging into the assessment correction engine. So another thing that may be happening is maybe that your cache maybe need to be cleared, and so there could be another way. And it doesn't matter whether you're using Chrome, Firefox, or Edge. Like it could be that. So I'm in Chrome right now. And so let's just say if you want to clear your cache, you want to go to the three dots that's in a vertical line and want to go to settings. And over to the left, you can click on privacy and security and then click on that clear browsing data. And this also works similarly. Like I said, Firefox is Firefox the same way, except it just got three lines that's in a vertical. And you just want to go to settings there, scroll down to the left, privacy and security. Then you scroll down and clear data. Once again, so like I said, so make sure if all this fails, it's just maybe just gotta clear your cache and then try to log back into the assessment creation engine, and you should be able to get in. All right, let's see. All right, got a question from that asked, what do you do if you receive an error message when you log into ACE? For example, no open correction years. Okay, so right now, so on your end, the correction window is still closed for districts right now. It won't open until August 8th. So right now you won't be able to log into it right now. So wait till August 8th, and that's when the correction system will be open for all the districts to go in and process and review. Okay, so now let's go to, back here. All right, so now let's go look at some different scenarios as to whether or not a student can be excluded from the percent test calculation. So if a student withdrew from your school district on the first day of testing, the student will be removed from the percent tested calculation. So would that be true or false? Okay, so yes, the answer is false. Yeah. So yeah, so great job on that.
So Kevin, we had a question come up in the Q&A. It said, if I made corrections before the school year ended in the ACT portal, do I still need to do this? The answer is yes, because even if you have 100% participation rate, your superintendent still has to go in and certify that that data is correct. Also, there may be a student, I don't know, just go in, look at your data, attempt to make corrections. It can help your ESSA school index score. Just make sure that there's something that, you know, maybe didn't show up in ACT portal that ACE catches. It's just always good to go in and review your data. But for no other reason, you're going to have to go into ACE to certify that your data is correct.
All right. So next question, next scenario. Hopefully y'all paid attention to those A/B charts that Ms. Gray was going over. A student left Union High School and transferred to Midway High School during the testing window, but did not test. Which school's participation rate does the student belong to? Let's see. I'm gonna get about another 30 seconds on this one. All right. Yes, it is correct. Midway. That is correct.
So why is it Midway, Kevin?
So is Midway is because even though, yes, the student did leave Union High School during testing with, but even though the student did not test, but when that student went to Midway, Midway should have saw this and said like, hey, there we need to test, you need to take at least the ACT Aspire, or it could be the DLM. Students should still test it, even though it was it's still during the testing window.
Right, it's because they did not test.
All right, next. During the third week of the testing window, a student left your school district and was admitted to Arkansas Children's Hospital. After being at Arkansas Children's Hospital for a week, the student was back at your district with a doctor's note requesting the student to be excused from the state summative assessments. Can the student still be excluded from the percent tested calculation for your school and district? All righty. That's right. So the answer is no, because as you again, to think about the testing window. So the student, like I said, the school could have tested the student during that first week. Could be that, at least the first week of the testing window, but the student went to Children's Hospital during the third week. And so, yeah, so like I said, the students should still test it before, and it could, and hey, there's a lot of things that could have happened, during that testing window for that student and why that student, went to the Children's Hospital. So, like I said, but it was still in that testing window. So that's why we should stress that, to at least test your students like early on and not wait till, towards the middle of the window or late in the window. So now, just want to share some upcoming announcements from the school performance unit to look out for. So once all these regional test creations, we process and finalize it, then it goes all into this calculation. And then next month, we're going to have a look out for the commission's memo for the private viewing of the ESSA School Index report. So the report is only for districts and schools. They can just go log into My School Info to see the ESSA School Index report. And as Ms. Grayer stated earlier in the session, yes, it is the return of the least, to some, the least favorite part of the report, which is the school letter grade. So, yes,
and
Ms.
Kevin, we're working with the engagement unit right now to come out. Our communication toolkit is not going to come out with it'll be a comprehensive, it'll be around our nested reporting system. So our communication toolkit this year will be more focused on those school ratings, because we do anticipate that for some schools, those ratings may decline from 2019 when those ratings were last, assigned based on the ESSA School Index. So we are working on the communications toolkit right now to go out for schools and districts so that we can focus on how to communicate the letter grades to the communities, and how we can focus on how schools and districts have been using ARP ESSER funds to mitigate learning loss at your schools and districts for students, to the communities as well. So that will also go out in October with those ESSA School Index reports, commissioner's memo. So just be aware to look for that as well.
Yeah. Yep. And so normally the private viewing, it will come at least a week two before the ESSA School Index report goes public for everyone to see, which you see it'll be in October. Also in October, be on the lookout for the commission's memo regarding graduation rate corrections, which will be October 31st through November 14th. And just like what we're doing right now with the recent artistic corrections, we will have webinars for graduation rates. So be on the lookout for that. Also, we will be recognizing schools on the move. This is where we recognize and celebrate schools that have shown a positive increase in the recent state and federal accountability reports. Like last year, I could say 2 schools, just for example, last year, we recognized them because they increased their overall ESSA School Index score by more than 10 points. And the last time we had letter grades, so there were 2 elementary schools who shown a vast increase, once compared to a previous year, one elementary school had a very low letter grade and they increased it to a C. One had a letter grade of a C, they increased it to an A. November, in the month of November, rewards and recognition, Blue Ribbon, National Title I Distinguished Schools, and then we have the school performance report card that will be posted within My School Info by the end of the year. So the majority, like I said, the majority of the stuff from the ESSA School Index scores will be in there. The last year's graduation rate, 2021 graduation rate percentages will be in the report card. And so like I said, it's going to be posted by the end of the year, and it's going to, and from December to about April, it's going to constantly be updated with all kinds of data that makes up the report card. So if you have, Ms. Greer.
I was also going to say around late October, early November, we should be also sending out those notification letters to districts as well concerning any school. This is an identification year for federal accountability, state accountability. So those notification letters will be sent out around that time, right after we finish ESSA School Index. Yes.
So, and if you have any other questions regarding anything regarding reason I tested the assessment correction engine, I'm already getting hit up with questions regarding graduation rates already. And so if you have any other questions about this, you can call us at 501-682. That's my number. That's my actual number.
And I'm going to drop mine in the chat, Kevin.
Yeah, it should be. The actual line is 682-7339. But hey, if you want to hit me up or you want to hit Ms. Greer up, you can as well. Also, you can email us at ade.schoolmail@ade.arkansas.gov. So yeah, so Ms. Greer, is there anything else you want to mention?
Well, we also have assigned districts by co-op region. We'll be getting that map out shortly, put on our school performance page, so you guys will know who's assigned to your co-op. But don't worry if you haven't met your 95% tested for a subgroup or for all students and you haven't made corrections by week 1, your school performance specialist will be contacting you. So you'll know real quickly who your specialist is that's assigned to you. We'll make sure that we take care of you and support you throughout the year. we're just trying to do everything that we can to help schools and districts push out communications, provide professional development around our systems, and do anything we can to support you. So like Kevin said, feel free to reach out to one of us. We have a whole team here that's here to help you. So if one of us are busy, we've got other people that can help as well. So don't hesitate to call or email with any questions. We want to thank y'all for joining us here today. Let us know what we can do to help you in the future. Hopefully you'll register and join us in October when we talk about grad rate corrections. We'll look forward to seeing you guys then. Y'all have a great day. See you next time.